to be a hard act to follow. Many of you know that when I'm not playing politician in the real world, I'm a CPA tax accountant. So I got out of my dungeon office this morning, left my tax returns behind for an hour here or so to come down and talk with you. And as soon as I'm done, I'm heading right back there to try to save some more taxpayers some more money before the April 17th tax deadline on Tuesday. Interestingly enough, this year, not only is April 17th the, whoops, I'm already breaking stuff. Not only is April 17th, Mike, can you push that up a little bit? Thanks. Not only is April 17th the income tax deadline, but April 17th is also National Tax Freedom Day, according to the Tax Foundation. What Tax Freedom Day means is that until April 17th, every hour you worked, every dime you made goes to pay your share of the national and state tax burden. And so through next Tuesday, you haven't made a single dime. Even if you think you have not made a single dime. And in Montana, Montana State Tax Freedom Day falls on April 15th this year. Now, a lot of people are fooled by that. They say, well, if we've got earlier Tax Freedom Day, that must mean that Montana state government is frugal. Well, that's not the case at all. It's all how the numbers work. Montana citizens are poor, and because we have low wages, because of that, and we have a accelerated income tax system, we're just in a lower federal income tax bracket than the average American, and that's the only reason that we have Tax Freedom Day before the national average. Not because our state government is frugal by any stretch, but simply because our citizens are poor and have low wages. The interesting thing, back in 1900, Americans paid only 5.9% of their income in their share of state and federal and local tax burden. That meant that Tax Freedom Day back in 1900 fell on January 26th, and it has been creeping further and further into the year. Now it's almost 30% of your income on average goes to pay your share of the state, federal, and local tax burden. The last year, for example, Tax Freedom Day nationally fell on April 5th, so it's 10 days later, just in 1 year. 12 days later, and it fell on April 12th in Montana, so it is 5 days later in Montana. According to the Tax Foundation, if the federal government raised taxes enough to cover the current national deficit, then Tax Freedom Day wouldn't even be on April 17th. It would be put all the way back to May 14th instead. And so you're now pushing better than 40% of the year going to cover your share of the national and state tax burden. And that's only the current budget deficit. And that does nothing. Even if you work till May 14th, that only would cover the current budget deficit and does nothing towards the accumulated debt we have. Now, Tom Tuck already talked to you about that accumulated debt. It's $15.6 trillion. And I just want to kind of bring that more into focus of what that means to you individually as an American citizen. That $15.6 trillion is only the direct national debt. It does not include, as Tom pointed out, the unfunded liabilities for Social Security, Medicare, and all the other, and pensions. And if you add those in, which are $118 trillion, as Tom pointed out, the total with the direct debt and the unfunded liabilities is $138 trillion. Actually, I apologize. It'll be $138 trillion by the end of the Obama spending spree. That's the projections by the Congressional Budget Office, that within 5 years it's going to balloon to $138 trillion. Now, I just want to bring that down to personal terms. $138 trillion is $428,102 for every man, woman, and child in the entire United States. 428,000, almost 500,000. What that says is even for a single family of four, for every average family of four in the United States, your share of the total national debt is $1,712,408. for every average family of 4 in the entire United States. Even if you think your family is debt-free, you really owe more than $1.5 million as your share of the national debt burden. So, obviously this is unsustainable. Obviously, America has been living beyond our means on our children's money. And it saddens me. The good old US of A has become IOUSA. And then the next question is, and of course my focus has been on state government for the last 12 years. The next question is Montana state government any less wasteful than the federal government? And the governor would like to have us believe that we are frugal, but we're not. And the governor totally ignores the fact that we have a $3 billion hole in our state pension funds. The last 2 year, our budgeting is on a 2-year cycle. And the last biennium, Montana state government spending per family of 4 was over $44,000 for every average family of 4 in the entire state of Montana. Now that's in a state where the average wages are only $34,000, and yet we're spending over $44,000 for every average family of 4 in the state. And I submit that it's simply fantasy to believe that our struggling private sector in Montana can possibly support this much government. In fact, when you consider the high number of government employees that we have in this state, the total government spending per private sector family of 4 balloons to almost $50,000 for every average family of 4. And I'm just going to give you a couple more statistics and I'm going to wrap it up. Montana state government debt per capita ranks in the top 10 nationally. Our state debt ranks in the top 10 nationally. When you take into account that Montana's average wages languish near the bottom, measured as a percentage of Montana's gross domestic product, our state government debt ranks 4th highest in the entire nation. 4th highest in the whole nation. The per capita government debt in Montana increased almost 50% in one 3-year period during the Schweitzer administration. This is simply unsustainable, folks. Deficit spending at both the state and federal levels is squandering our grandchildren's well-being under a mountain of inflationary government waste and red tape, and it's actually stymieing economic growth, which is the one thing that could possibly get us out of this mess that we find ourselves in. So as many of you know, I'm term limited out of office and won't be running again for the legislature. And so I just want to tell you that my last no vote, when I voted no against Montana's last budget, my no vote was a vote against America's self-inflicted destruction of history's greatest economy. It was a vote against burdening the backs of each family with nearly $1 million bad debt. It was a vote for my children and children's children, and a vote for giving them the same life of economic opportunity which my parents handed to me. And so as I'm term limited out, I urge you to prepare for this next election. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. Make sure that when you vote for people who are committed to reducing government spending, who have a backbone to stand up against all the special interest groups. Make sure you vote for people who have walked the walk and not just talked the talk. Thank you.